Good afternoon to all dignitaries and participants. This is Mrs. Bhumi Rathod. I welcome you back to the second session of the first day of our online faculty development program, Transition Management for Higher Education during the COVID-19 pandemic, a blueprint. Today in this session, we have with us Shri R. Kannan. Mr. R. Kannan is an expert in finance and strategy with more than 30 years experience, and during his career as a management consultant and a key member of corporate headquarters in various companies, which include TCS PwC as management consultant, Hinduja Group as VP and head of strategy, ICICI Infotech as EVP and head of strategy, ICICI Bank Group as EVP strategy. Sir carried out assignments relating to corporate finance, fundraising, treasury management, strategy formulation implementation, organization restructuring, corporate performance management, business development, mergers, and acquisitions. At present, Sir is heading the corporate performance monitoring and research function at the group level in Hinduja Group of companies covering more than 15 companies. Sir has worked in almost all sectors of the economy at various levels. He's also been a part of jury for selecting the best CFO in India. Mr. Kannan is also on the board of studies of various management institutes and has delivered guest lectures, including management development programs for top executives, senior bankers from India and abroad. Mr. Kannan has a personal interest in global and Indian economy and has shared his ideas on economic development and economic crisis with the government stakeholders from across the world. And some of the resolutions on crisis management and economic development were implemented by government authorities across the world. Mr. Kannan, we welcome you to this online faculty development program. Thank you for being a part of it, and over to you.
Good afternoon, madam, for the introduction. Good afternoon to all of you. I am very, very happy to be part of this program to speak on economic implications of COVID-19 from the Indian perspective. Next slide. Next.
Next slide, please.
We are in a very unprecedented situation in the modern history of the world, and this has affected almost every country in the world. No country was exempt from this crisis, but only the and it came as a big shock to all of us. What we call as a black swan event in the management theory, where nobody has predicted. It's called unknown and unknown. And what we are finding it is that since we have never faced this type of situation, we are finding it very, very difficult to manage this. We are still trying to find solutions, and it has affected almost all sectors in the world. As you are all aware, we had a lockdown in the month of April. You must have heard that Maruti had a 0 unit sales in India. It is true for many companies in India, where for the first time in their history, in the month of April, their sales was 0. And generally, whenever we have crisis, what we find is that either there is a supply contraction or a demand contraction. Or you find that commodities are not available, then the oil price goes up, or you find that there's a demand going down. But in this situation, what we are finding it is that not only demand, but also supply chains are broken, and people are not able to manufacture. They're not able to get the raw material. So there is a contraction in both supply and demand. And it affected all segments of the society. No one is exempt. Whether somebody is from a poor class or a middle class or a rich class, they are all affected, but only to the degree in which they are affected varies. In terms of the latest statistics, more than 3.1 million people are affected all around the world. Next slide, please. So the IMF came up with for the first time in the history, IMF and World Bank. I remember I getting the mail from them in the month of February beginning itself, or maybe February middle, saying that this year the meeting is going to be held virtually. So what has happened? IMF and World Bank, they held their meeting this year all through virtual medium. And when they projected the economic growth in the month of January, it was totally different from the projections which they made during the meetings. In fact, they had to downgrade the economic growth for many of the regions across the world. Earlier, the prediction was that the world will grow at more than 3% per annum, whereas according to the optimistic estimate, now they are saying the world will grow at minus 3%. And if you go and look at the pessimistic views, this year world growth might even go down to 10 or 12%. So there will be a big contraction in the entire world. Apart from that, more than 170 countries in the world. I again, this is optimistic estimate. 170 countries in the world will see a per capita income decline. I'm not saying because some countries have got deflation, they don't have inflation. So the per capita GDP decline will be witnessed in 170 countries, but the way things are going, I feel that almost more than 180 countries will be affected. In fact, most of the developed nations like US and Europe, US came up with the quarterly number yesterday. They contracted by 4.5%. Similarly, Europe came up with a number. There was also a very big loss. So there is an estimate that the GDP growth for many countries will go down by 4, 10, or maybe even 15. If you look at countries like Middle East, where a lot of oil is being produced and sold, since the oil price took a big fall, they might even find their GDP is falling by 20, 30%. Next slide, please. So this is some of the predictions, how estimates of initial impact of COVID-19 on the output. You find that almost all countries are reporting a minus GDP, and this quarter, for sure, every country in the world will witness a minus growth. There will be negative growth of the economies in the world. Next slide, please. So, what is unique about this crisis? This crisis has not happened because of economy. This crisis happened because of the health. This is a health crisis. And what is unique about it? In this health crisis, we don't have we don't have proven medicine to cure this crisis. Of course, yesterday you all must have read in the papers that US has allowed one drug to be used as of now to critically ill patients who are affected by COVID. So they passed that order yesterday. The drug can be used. One good thing is that we here, of course, in India, there are a lot of traditional medicine people are adopting, and they are finding that they are able to prevent. So this is a crisis created out of health where we still don't have a solution to the problem. So that is leading to the economic crisis. Then what it is likely to lead to? This economic crisis. Why economic crisis is happening? Most of the countries in the world have said that there should be a shutdown. There should not be any economic activity. So they have locked down, and there is no. So people, especially people who are in the informal sector, they have lost jobs. So that is leading to economic crisis. We have the job losses and all that. The economic crisis, we find that the income falling for almost all segments of the society. So this economic crisis is likely to lead to societal crisis. So what is the issue in hand? One is this, whether to save lives or whether to save livelihoods. The numbers we see, the number of people who are dying today, according to some statistics, the number of deaths which was happening on the traditional diseases or someone falling ill really has come down in the last 2 months. Similarly, even if you look at the number of deaths in India, it just crossed 1,000 now. So it's less. But imagine the number of people who have become unemployed, who don't have any money to spend. So they might die of hunger. So the main issue is where to strike a balance, whether to save the lives of people or whether to ensure that there are livelihoods of people. So realizing this need, countries across the world, they are saying that we have to address livelihood also. We must read about what is happening in Sweden. Sweden has developed a strategy whereby they allowed all the old people to stay at home, those who are weak to stay at home. They encouraged all others to go to work, and they feel that people will be able to develop herd immunity by which they will be able to address the crisis on a long-term basis. So then the next issue is lockdown. In India, we thought that by May 4th, we all will go to work, we'll stop the activities. So what has happened? It's still not subsiding. Actually, the numbers are increasing. Only thing is the number of days it takes to double has gone up. And of course, it's slowly coming down, but it's still there. So lockdowns is an issue because it is stopping the economic activity. It is stopping the income for many people. It is reducing the income for many people. Loss of jobs on a grand scale and loss of production. Substantial reduction in economic activity across the sectors. And large loss in hello. Hello.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
But I'm not able to see the screen. 1 minute, huh? Something happened to my screen. Coming.
Yes, sir.
Uh, it is saying join meeting in progress. 1 minute.
So maybe you've been
Yeah, I got it.
got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So next slide, please. So 2 days ago, ILO came up with a study. They said that 2 billion workers saw their income reduced by 60%. And they also said that there are 1.6 billion workers across the world in informal sector, and 50% of them are likely to lose the jobs. Why we should be concerned about them? They lack welfare protection. They don't have access to good health care, and they don't have the ability or wherewithal, or they will not be able to work from home. So these are the reasons why we should be concerned. And coming to SMEs, this is one of the major sectors which will get affected in a very big way. And according to ILO, they are saying that about 43.6 crore enterprises across the world are likely to become sick because of this crisis. Yeah, next slide, please. So, what is the global response? One good thing is that we had the experience in the 2008 crisis. So, governments across the world, whether it was US or Europe, they all managed the crisis. Of course, it took a lot of time for them to manage it, and they were able to improve their country balance sheet. They were able to improve their bank balance sheets. So before this crisis, in fact, countries across the world, compared to 2008, their financial systems were better. Their banking systems were in a better position. So what they have done, because of the experience with the last crisis, this time all the countries across the world, including India, are very fast. They came up with a very fast response, coming and announcing, realizing that this is a crisis, a pandemic, which is unpredictable when it will end. immediately they announced very large stimulus measures going up to 10% of the GDP, 20% of the GDP, and 30% of the GDP. So in the global response, there are four issues which have to be tackled. The foremost important aspect is health policy. In fact, every government in the world, they created a budget for addressing this crisis. They created a budget. Even India, we have created a budget for addressing this crisis. In fact, today morning, the news was that now 112 companies will be manufacturing personal protective equipments in India. And already we have started manufacturing about 1.4 lakh personal protective equipments on a daily basis. And the government, realizing this need, health policy, whoever is involved in the work of the health, they are given a liberal insurance protection to them. And all the state governments in India, they've drawn up a plan to address this crisis. They created a kitty. So the most important today is that health policy. The governments across the world, they have to create a significant budget which will be able to produce medicines, produce the equipments, and to support the staff who are engaged in this. Second is the fiscal policy. Fiscal policy is what the government does in terms of taxation, concessions given to various segments of the society, individuals, SMEs, self-help groups, banks, and companies. Then monetary policy, what is that the RBI have to do? So that the RBI has to do. So reducing interest rates, making the credit available. I would say, I was just hearing our RBI governor speaking the other day. I'm very, very impressed. 150 senior officers from RBI, they don't go to their home. They work round the clock, 24 hours a day, to make sure that today's issue is liquidity. Make sure that the liquidity is available across the country for anyone to do a transaction. So monetary policy plays a very important role. Across the world, many governments have announced reduction in interest. Same we have witnessed with RBI. And finally, financing policy. How we are going to fund this crisis? So what will happen is that funding this crisis is going to affect the balance sheet of the government in a big way. Whatever targets you have set for fiscal deficit, it is going to be breached in a very big way. If you are targeting 3.5% of fiscal deficit, according to me, we might see a fiscal deficit going up to 12 to 15% this year. So financing, how we are going to finance this? Well, the sources of funding are very limited. The money is not going to come from private sector. They themselves are in a problem. So how we are going to finance this? So these are four policies governments have to address. How we are going to manage this crisis. So I'm happy to say all the governments across the world, they're very fast in their response to alleviate the pain. So they all went and announced lockdowns. In fact, India, we are very fortunate. We announced a lockdown a little earlier than many others. Many others took it very lightly and they went for a later lockdown and they saw the cases piling up very fast. And as I discussed, there was a large dose of stimulus and there is something called modern monetary theory, by which, since this is an unprecedented situation where it is very, very difficult to find financial resources, what governments are seeking is printing new money. RBI will print new money, government will issue a bond, and government will use the money to support all the sectors across the economy. Yeah. So next page, please. So government measures, if you look at as a percentage of GDP, Japan almost 20%, UK 18.8%, Australia 11%, Germany 10%. Of course, today I was just reading, or maybe a message I saw, where our government is saying that we will not be able to fund too much of this. Our fiscal deficit will go up, and credit rating agencies will uh, downgrade our rating. In fact, November itself, Moody's said that India is likely to be downgraded. India, this time, before the crisis, we are already very, very weak, Indian economy. In the last financial year, almost 5 months, we had a negative power generation in the Indian economy, which means activities were negative. And yesterday or day before, the index for core sector came, where we found most of the indicators are negative for the month, and for the whole year, Indian economy, the core sector had grown only by 0.6%. Can we go to next slide, please? So I prepared this slide 2 days ago. Of course, we have the latest numbers, but as on 29th April, there were 332 cases. 7,695 already cured. That's a very good ratio. And if you look, we have about 739 districts. Again, this is as of 29th. This is not the number which government released yesterday of red, orange, and green. So out of 739 districts, 300 districts, they have no virus. In fact, I was seeing the numbers for statewide. I was very surprised. State like Karnataka, 14 districts are not affected at all. On 300 districts, only few cases. Whereas out of 739, only 129 districts are really hotspots. And in 7 days, there are no new cases in 80 districts. And 14 days, no new cases in 14 days. So Indian government has managed the situation very, very well. In fact, governments across the world are wondering how we are able to do and how we are doing it. Yeah, next one. So in the next page, we have, this is again a 2-day-old picture. But one fact which is disturbing is that today the news came, almost all the metropolitan cities in India are red zones. Similarly, when I looked at the statistics presented by CRISIL as well as Citibank, what I found was that most of the places which are the most productive places, most productive sectors, most credit, most deposits, these are places which are red zones. So that is really a disturbing factor. Yeah, next one. So I talked about health policy. What are the containment initiatives being undertaken there? As I said, budget for medical measures, already we have the budget, and government was very, very fast, and many of the factories converted themselves to produce the required equipments. And ramping up the Medicare capacity, we are very, very fast. Government, apart from hospitals, they took over marriage halls, they took over schools, colleges, to put those who are quarantined there. And after announcing 21-day national lockdown, again now we heard the new lockdown, which will be there in force. But only issue is that what people are saying is that once the lockdown is over, how we have to move. So a lot of issues which have to be addressed. Whereas Sweden, if they are able to come up with a kind of immunity, then they don't have that issue. Then the government has come up with a lot of travel restrictions. As you are all aware, till 2 days ago, nobody could have traveled from one place to other. Now in India, there is a migrant crisis. like what Indians go and work in Middle East and developed countries. Similarly, in India also, all the states in India, they get a lot of migrant labor from 4 states from India. So they are the ones who come and work in factories as well as in unorganized sector. So now the government is allowed, they are running a few trains where people can go to their places. All that is happening now. I know many of my friends who are stuck up either in Bangalore or Delhi, not able to join their families in Mumbai. So hopefully after this new measure, I think they should be able to join. One more thing is that the government has closed educational establishments, gyms, museums and theaters so that doesn't spread, and ban on mass gatherings, and encouraging the remote work. We hear that almost now IT companies, they are even trying, some of the IT companies, all the 100% work can it be done from home. In fact, if you ask me, even people like us who are working in offices, actually our personal productivity has gone up because we don't travel 2 hours a day. But the only issue is that the real economy productivity is almost zero. So that is the issue. The next one. So coming to, I was just telling you about our economy. This is the latest report brought by Ministry of Finance about 4 5 days ago. This report, according to the report, if you really see, India, most of our income, national income, come from services. You can see the percentage of contribution in the terms of hotel, transport, storage, financial, and public administration. In fact, this year, contribution of public administration to GDP will cross 15%, which means the government has played a major role in our economic growth. And you will find, as I told you, the latest numbers came for March. The core sector has grown only 0.6%. This is not just relating to COVID. COVID has really worsened the situation. Even before COVID, only one quarter of this year we grew positive. However, if you look at earlier 7 quarters in India, our economic growth was negative. So whenever there are two negative growths, 2 quarters negative growth, technically it is called a recession. So technically India was in a recession, but we have grown closer to 5%. Yeah, next slide please. So this is what I explained to you earlier in terms of growth. And again, if you look at the growth, in the last few years, if you look at Indian economic growth, the fastest growing segment was services, followed by industry, finally agriculture. So the services always given the big push to our growth, followed by industry. And if you look at the last 7 8 years, whatever is the loss of share of agriculture in the national income was always taken by the services sector, not the industry sector. So this year, we find that in fact, agriculture growth in India will be higher than the industry growth. But services have grown. Yeah. Next slide, please. And one more thing, one good thing is that always the trade in India contributed negative to our growth. So we always had a trade deficit. Because the negative trade deficit, what used to happen was due to trade. To that extent, our GDP growth was less. Because we are importing more than the exports. One good thing about this COVID is that people are predicting the oil prices gone down. Gold imports will be down because the sentiments of people to buy gold will be less. So this year, in 2020-21, most of the economies are predicting that India will have a trade surplus, so which everybody is bullish that Indian currency will be stable. Well, we expect a lot of, but at the same time, all of you know, last year remittances of Indians was $83 billion. Out of that, more than $50 billion came from Middle East. So, according to IMF estimate, the remittances of India will go down by 26%. If you ask me, it could be even more. All the Middle Eastern countries are affected, but people are predicting that oil price will come to $40-50, then Middle East will do better. But according to many of the economists, this year we expect a trade surplus which will add to our GDP. Next slide, please. So then again, balance of payments, if you look at whatever trade deficit we have, it is always being compensated by software exports. It was compensated by remittances by Indians who are living abroad. Then, of course, to meet our requirements, in fact, our look at the balance of payments. India, our foreign debt is about $550 billion against our current reserves of $470 billion. So we really look at we have a negative of $75 billion. But this year, as I said, the trade is likely to be going down, both imports and exports, in a big way. So this is likely to result in a trade surplus for us. Also headwinds like lower income from people who are living abroad. And we hear that there are 200,000 H1B visa holders of India living in US. And I believe in the next 2 months, 60 of them have the risk of losing their H1B status and coming back to India. So these are all negative points which we may have to consider while looking at balance of payments. One good thing is that we are likely to get aid from countries like already we heard that the ADB has committed our funds, and similarly New Development Bank has committed our funds. We will hear World Bank will do, and our government might even take IMF. These are all concessional funding at low interest rate. So we will be able to manage the balance of payments. Next. Fiscal parameters of central government. In the last 4 years, one of the major issues was introduction of GST. So when the government introduced GST, the prediction was that every month we will be able to mobilize 1,40,000 crores. The government said that there are many companies which are outside the organized sector. They'll come as a part of the organized sector. They are not paying taxes. Once they become part of the system, they'll start paying taxes. So the government expected that the GST will go to 1,40,000 crores, which will make the government finances very, very strong. So what has happened, as you are all aware, whenever the GST council met, where all the state ministers are there, in every meeting, they were reducing the tax for a few products, few services. So what has happened over a period of time, so many concessions were given. The collection from GST never reached its potential of 1,40,000 crores. As you must have read in the papers or have seen in the TV, in the month of March, the collection from GST was only 29,000 crores. So on the one side, we have this crisis where government has to mobilize a lot of funds. On the other side, we have a challenge where the government's revenue on taxation has come down, both in direct and indirect tax. Why in direct tax? Again, after the introduction of demonetization, GST and RERA many of the sectors in India, they have been uncompetitive. Their margins have come down very fast, and there is a heavy competition in sectors whereby the companies which are making profits, they started making losses. So only when they are making profits, they are paying taxes. So one of the challenges for government, especially central government, is that how to raise resources. One more thing is that when they introduced GST, the central government promised every state government that for the next 5 years, every year, the central government will give 14% more revenue to the state government on account of the state government adopting GST. So even when there is no activity, imagine central government has to give 14% more money. If state government does not have any money, they have to pay to state government, central government has to pay them. So one of the challenges for government is that at this point of time, the scope for privatization, raising money will be very, very difficult. So how they are going to manage the finances the coming year? And they said that a new budget will be made in July. I can tell you, certainly the budget will have a minimum fiscal deficit of 10%, not less. And since the lockdown has been extended by another 14 days, I expect the fiscal deficit may have to go up to 14-15%. But if you ask me, that is a good thing to do because the government is going to make everybody productive in the economy. They will start producing and they will start making profits. They will start paying taxes and government finances will certainly improve. Next slide, please. So broad money again, if you look at, actually money growth was really good. But you must note, one good thing about India is that we always say that our banking system is very weak and very weak. At the end of March, of the total lending by banks, 50 lakh crore debt is to government. That's a good thing. If you ask me for our banking system, 50 lakh crores is by our government only. They are the main borrower. Of course, we have other borrowers. So whenever we talk about NPA and all that, we have to keep at the back of our mind that of course 1/3 of our system is protected. It's a government money. But one bad thing is that, as you're all aware, Governor also mentioned, banking system has a liquidity of about 6 to 7 lakh crores. They are not lending to corporates. They are not lending to MSMEs. TLRO 1 was brought, TLRO 2 was brought. Why they are not lending? We have the past history where when these people lend, mostly in the public sector, there are issues. Later on, they will be caught because of the CVC and so many other investigation agencies. So they fear to lend. If the account goes bad, they might be caught. So there is a fear of lending. I have a solution afterwards when we come to the last slide. So one thing was that what we find, the credit to the corporates is less. That is due to two reasons. One is that capacity utilization of all the corporates even before the crisis was less than 70%. Only when the corporates reach a capacity utilization of 80%, they will think about investing in new capacity. So this COVID crisis has really worsened the situation. So unless the demand increases, corporates will not look at new capex. Now, in fact, in this situation, everybody is talking about cash as a king, liquidity, and they all think about having cash for next 3 months operation, 6 months operation, reducing the cost. So these are issues in the hand. So one of the things we find is that, in fact, the credit to the government has gone up, whereas credit to the industry has not gone up. So that is why the government share of GDP has gone up. Next slide. So this is some of the rating. The government's concern, as I was telling you, was that rating. If you are going to give a big stimulus, I'm sure our rating will go down. But as far as we make sure all the money is generated within India, deployed within India, as I said, within a year or two, the government finances will improve. We can certainly get back our rating like what has happened in the case of last financial crisis. In fact, the last financial crisis, everybody expected that India also will see a decline in economic growth, but we saw our economic growth continuing in 2008-9, 9-10, and 10-11. We continue to do very well. Indian economy did very well. So, if you ask me, short term, we can sacrifice the rating part. So we should focus on productive activities, and in the medium term, our economy, the government finances will certainly improve. Next slide, please. So what are the issues? As I said already, the economy was growing slowly. Growth was declining and the government tax collections were tepid. One more thing, even before this crisis, the consumer confidence, the investor confidence, and the business confidence levels are very low in the Indian economy. It's not due to COVID. COVID has really worsened the situation. And as I mentioned, many sectors have become unviable. I'm very happy. Yesterday, Prime Minister announced a package for power sector. So many sectors, if you look at the sectors like real estate, power, automobile, in fact, after the crisis of NBFCs, banking, telecom, so many of the sectors are in real problem now. Yeah, and in fact, February, if you look at our economic activity, it is positive. It has given us hope. Okay, we have broken the old trend and we'll start growing. But unfortunately, the government has to announce lockdown. But for that, so what are the factors which led to this slowing down of economy? If you ask me, it is all started with the RBI coming up with the recommendation of asset quality review. The RBI in the year 2015 or 16, they went and told all the banks in India, saying that they have to go and report the NPAs, all the NPAs, by the end of March 2017. So when all the banks went and declared their NPAs, we realized our NPAs were more than 10%. Our restructured assets all put together is 20% of the system. So all the banks were downgraded, their rating went down, their cost of borrowing went up, the confidence levels gone down. So this was the first one which affected our economy in a big way, asset quality review. Actually, it should have been done in phases. They should have asked the banks to provide everything by 2019 March, not 2017 March. So that made banks not to lend. That made banks to look at everybody saying that the company is insolvent. Yeah, then insolvency law also came. Then demonetization, as government studies itself, they said that the demonetization has affected the informal sector in a big way. Then of course I explained to you about GST. So when RERA was introduced, we all thought that the problems of real estate sector will be overcome. But the effect of bank not lending, demonetization, GST, after era, real estate really went under. Then we had the NBFC crisis. So actually we had 4, 5 events which have led to slowing down of economy in stages, which reduced in fact, before the asset quality review of RBI, our potential rate of economic growth was 8%. Slowly it came down, and before the COVID it was at 7%. Now after the COVID, actually our potential economic growth rate is only 5%. The entire banking and financial services today in India are in bad shape. As you are all aware, NBFCs are the one which went and funded the informal sector. And in fact, they have 20% of lending to corporates was by NBFCs. And of course, 50% of their funding was from banks. So because of this NBFC crisis also, there was a problem. But I was happy to read in the month of March, the banks are given NBFCs about 1,15,000 crores. That was good to read. And COVID made the situation worse. So unlike in 2008, where we were very strong, this time our economy was very weak. Can you go to the next slide, please? Next slide. Yeah. So I told you, even before COVID, many companies are operating at 70%. And during the lockdown in the month of March, many companies have seen their activity coming by 70-80%. April, as I told you, almost 100%. Yeah, Maruti is 100. Most of the auto companies, their activity was 0. And most of the service-related activities, except the government services, medical services, emergency services, banking services, everything else was affected. I'm happy. The government realizing that agriculture has to continue. In fact, they even opened the agriculture for trade now, for exports. And government emphasized that agriculture should continue in full form. And I'm very happy about that. So there was a complete arrest of economic activity. Many sectors came to a standstill. But of course now, after defining these regulations, zones, the ones which are in green zone will be totally allowed to operate. Orange zones will have some restricted movements. Of course, red one will have complete stop. Yeah, next one, please. So which are sectors affected? Airlines. Airlines is a major, it's affected. Boeing, they said last time Boeing took money from US government. So this time Boeing said that they have mobilized $25 billion themselves. Boeing. They mobilized $25 billion so the entire supply chain is intact. Singapore Airlines, they are going for a $10 billion rights issue. Their market cap is only $10 billion. So they are going for a $10 billion. But what about the airlines which are very weak? Many airlines in the world, they are very weak. Airline as a sector itself is not very competitive, except when somebody is operating a low-cost airline. Except United Airlines in US or Emirates. If you look at all the full service carriers across the world, they have a negative margin. Most of the times, the airlines which make profits, they are all low-cost carriers like Southwest, Blue Jet, all these companies. So now, most of the airlines which are very weak, they will find it difficult to survive. Then, in the services sector, one of the major areas which gives a lot of employment is travel, tourism, and accommodation. So, this crisis has affected all the three in a big way. Next is automobile. Automobile contributes to 10% of the manufacturing and about 2.2% of the GDP. It employs a lot of people. Apart from that, it has a big value chain of raw material, component makers, and dealers. So automobile is a large employment sector. And if we have to revive manufacturing, there is one sector which requires immediate attention. Then real estate and construction. Even before the crisis, we heard that lakhs of houses across the cities not being sold. In fact, I was happy to hear Mr. Deepak Parekh. Every time real estate is one sector, they have a gross margin of 50%. And whoever builds the building, they always want to sell at a very high margin. But in this COVID situation, the people who are in real estate, they should not look at margins, they should look at liquidity. So he has advised to people, companies, even if you cover your costs, even if you don't get a big margin, you sell and come out, which means we will see discounts from real estate sector, and that is a third largest employment sector where a lot of migrant people work, a lot of people in the unorganized employment. So that requires a lot of support. Of course, manufacturing contributes only 16% to GDP today, but the loss again in manufacturing for not operating is very high. On wholesale retail, you must have heard Amazon today saying India is one of the countries where the effect of lockdown is much higher. When other countries they are allowed to operate, but not in India. Of course, exports. We heard from many of the exporters. I was attending a webinar where exporters were participating. They made their goods, they are not able to export. These are some of the sectors affected. Next slide, please. So which are sectors benefited? One good thing is that all of productivity as office workers, as professors, as researchers, it has really gone up. The last 3 years, thanks to digitization level in India today, India is one of the most digitized world today, where we are able to get high bandwidth on our mobile. So internet has benefited in a big way, telecom has benefited, digital media partly benefited because they are not getting advertisements today. And part of health sector, I was told today, we require about 2.2 crore PPEs in India, which has created an opportunity for Indian companies of 7,000 crores. 7,000 crores is not a small number. So it is created. Similarly, the companies manufacturing drugs. Of course, going forward, people will be very, very health conscious. So they won't mind spending money on drugs. One good thing about India is that India is the place where you can get the cheapest drugs in the world, nowhere else. Yeah, next one. The government response, as I told you, our government is also very fast to come up with stimulus measures, but they always have a concern that if they come with a big stimulus, their fiscal deficit will go down, or fiscal deficit will go up, our country rating will go down. I explained to you. Then specific health budget has been created to address the pandemic, and I think 14 or 15 special working groups were created at the central government, and various state governments have created working groups. The working groups in state governments are working closely with working groups of central government, exchanging information, ideas, and action plans. The next one. So fiscal measures. So government, as we are all aware, they announced a very large stimulus package valued at 0.8% of GDP, almost 1.7 lakh crores. In fact, free food is available to 80 crore people. If you have a ration card, every person will get 5 kg of wheat or rice free. And as you're all aware, cooking gas has been given to more than 8 crore women. And about 20 crore women will get 500 rupees every month in their through direct benefit transfer, cash transfer to lower income households. And government is incurring the insurance coverage for workers in healthcare sector. and they created a wage support to low wage workers, and about 15,000 crores they are allocated to, including for testing facilities. Next one. And one more thing, this has come just before March, where a lot of compliance is required. So there are measures to ease the tax compliance burden across a range of sectors. They postpone the dates for reporting, they postpone the dates for payment of fees. And state governments also announced measures to support the health and well-being of lower income. Aggregate measures amount to 0.2% of GDP. Next one. Measures by RBI. As I told you, RBI came up with this concept of LTRO. Actually, this concept was introduced by European government in the 2008 crisis to make funds available to banks to be on lend to other sectors in the economy. But only issue here is that even before this TLRO was brought by RBI, the banking system was already flooded with a lot of money, which they are not able to deploy because companies are not borrowing. So what happened was this TLRO has been brought, but mostly the banks have parked their money only in RBI. So to discourage this, what RBI has done, they have said that whatever money being parked by banks, it will earn only 3.5% interest. Where they have to borrow at 4.4. So and also they specifically said they identified 3 institutions for which money has to be used. One is this NABARD. NABARD, as we are all aware, it's a canalizing agency for rural development, financing agency for rural development in India. SIDBI for small industry sector, National Housing Bank. So now, I think today RBI is holding or held, I'm not sure, a meeting with bankers. I don't know what is the outcome. So they must have got at all the banks, encouraging them to go and lend to these sectors. So RBI doing its bit in a big way, and we have to wait and see how it pans out. Next one. Also, they created a facility to help with state government short-term liquidity needs. So as you are all aware, they also relaxed the condition to something called raise and means advances to states. Initially, they increased by 30%. Later on, they increased by 60%. Similarly, the borrowing by central government from RBI, so they increased the limit to 2 lakh crores. So RBI, whatever it can do, it is doing in terms of extending the loan facilities to central government, to state governments, banks, then financing agencies like NABARD, SIDBI, and NHB. And RBI introduced regulatory measures to promote credit flows to retail sector, MSME. Next one. Next one, please. So the priority sector classification. Yeah. Then SEBI also come up with a lot of measures. If you go to the SEBI website, there's something called COVID. The COVID, they have put what all measures they have taken. It includes they reduce the broker fees, they have relaxed timelines for reporting, allowance for moratorium allowed by RBI, relaxation for rights issue, and several other measures they brought. So you can go through the SEBI website. They have all the measures which they have taken for COVID. Next one. Other measures I explained to you, funding NABARD, SIDBI, and National Housing Bank. And now, as I told you, banks have lent already 1.2 lakh crores in the month of March. And now they have helped migrants reach their homes. And they created a special fund, PM fund for coronavirus, where individuals as well as companies are given money in a big way. One good thing about education is that they have opened a digital library of millions of books, which people can access free. And as you're all aware, even companies like Stringer, they allowed some 500 books to be downloaded free of cost. And Harvard, so many of the institutions around the world, they have opened their library free for academics to refer. Next one. So if you ask me, we have managed the crisis very well so far. Yeah. The issue is how we are going to restart the economic activity. How we will bring the production to the speed. How we will create employment back to the speed. That is the issue. So, but we have to start gradually open up the manufacturing. Main issue is demand, consumer demand. How we will stimulate the consumer demand. If you ask me, government and government employees, I am coming to the next slide, I'll explain to you. The next one is that already there is a reduction of employment in a big way in India. So how to reduce the employment, that create employment. So in this situation, if you ask me, government is the only entity which has a wherewithal to revive the economy. Except 2 or 3 companies in private sector like Hindustan Unilever, ITC, or HDFC Bank or HDFC, all other entities are very weak. They themselves are struggling. So they are not in a position to mobilize resources and face their own problems. And similarly, the resources available to the government are not adequate to address the situation. They don't have the money. And we know government was planning to privatize. And last year they monetized some road assets. They also leased out some port facilities. All that they are doing. They are planning to sell BPCL. They are planning to sell Air India. But this is not the time to sell. They will get a very low value. So the government has to look at measures in 3 areas. One is that where they don't require to invest any money. It's all about regulations, making procedures simple, and with a little money, with the existing budget. There are many places where the money we have can be productively utilized. For example, DBT transfer, directly reaching the beneficiaries. Third one is where the government has to put a lot of money. That is where the big stimulus has to come. Next page. So, according to me, if you have seen the last crisis, governments in US and Europe, they invested money in the equity capital of companies, banks. They went and purchased the bonds, NCDs of companies and banks. So all that RBI cannot do directly, all that the government cannot do directly. So the government can create a SPV. So that SPV, they will capitalize with some capital. Then the government will issue a Corona bond. The main subscriber will be RBI. Now, as I told you, already SBI and public sector banks are setting a lot of money. And they are happy with 4% given by RBI. So the Corona bond need not go to market. What I am saying is that you keep the interest rate only at 4%. So this will not compete with the other borrowers in the market. It will not increase the interest rate for other borrowers. So you keep the rate of interest of bond at 4%. So apart from this, a lot of pension funds across the world, they have a return of minus in many investments they made. They will be happy to come and invest in India bond at 4%. Japan government will invest. Saudi government will invest. Yeah, Abu Dhabi government will invest. All these people can come and invest in this bond. So the government can raise at least, according to me, 14 lakh crores through this bond, or it cannot be only one SPV. I believe NABARD has got a few SPVs which they are going to use. SIDBI can use their vehicles, and National Housing Bank can use their vehicles. So we can have at a micro level there can be 10, 12 SUVs. So apart from that, they have to consider some tax benefits. And when the market turns good, this is what the US government did. They sold the shares at a good profit and they came out. So that can happen here. Next page, please. So SPV, as of now, the banks are buying only AA and above instruments. If you ask me, the sickness of many industries in India are due to many external factors. But if the government gives a stimulus, it is going to have a spillover effect in the entire economy. Many sectors will revive. They will be more productive, new investments. And of course, government has already drawn up a plan to invest a lot of money in infrastructure, mainly in roads and other projects. Government is committed. They will also support. Yeah, next one. Next slide, please. So, government and government employees are one of the major consuming class in the country. Already, government banks have given a 1% interest subsidy to all the employees to buy cars, buy houses, buy durables. Similarly, government can give a 1% subsidy or 2% subsidy to all their employees, pensioners, and government-related institutions. Similarly, government, in between, they went in for leasing model. Instead of leasing model, they can buy the equipments outright from the companies. This will help. Next page. Next page, please. Is the last one? Yeah. Similarly, PSUs are large buyers. You know, companies like Coal India, National Mineral Development Corporation, BPCL, HPCL, at least 15-20 companies in India. They are very large. Their balance sheet is very good. They can borrow money. They can invest in capex. They can put up new projects. So that will also give a big boost to the economy. Yeah, next one. And there is a perception that PSUs in India are not efficient. The public sector,
Data public sector units in India are not efficient compared to private sector.
next slide.
So detailed.
Yeah.
Private sector also have a large
امیشی هی کتا امیز ویلی زمین یه که کسی زمین یه نه
Hello?
رافیز بکنیم
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Sir, you're muted. Please unmute yourself.
No, I'm unmute only.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yes,
We can hear you.
I can hear you now. Yeah. So PSUs also can help government in a big way to boost the consumption. Yeah, next slide, please. So one more thing is that many suppliers to state and central governments, they are outstanding dues. So it can be taken on a priority basis. That money can be settled. Yeah, next one. So we discussed about lives and livelihoods, but now the immediate need is how we are going to save the livelihoods. So how fast we have to revive the economy. So there is a need to protect the employment and the sectors which are not doing well. And I'm hopeful the government will announce the measures because they already said the next 2-3 days many more new measures will be announced. I'm very hopeful that new measures announced will take care of all these issues. I think that's the last one. One more thing is ease of investment. Sectors across the country face many issues in their competitiveness. So the how to make investments, I'm not talking about ease of doing business. We want to invest, a lot of issues, a lot of procedures, they can be simplified. For a period of 2 years, the regulation relating to ease of entry, ease of doing business, ease of exit from a business can be made simpler. Next one. So the most important objective today going forward, apart from health, of course we have to take care of health, how to revive the economic growth. So by focusing on the industry and economic growth, government will be able to kickstart the economy. I'm sure that 14 lakh crore stimulus is given. Well, in the last 1 week, I heard from many quarters, everybody has turned negative in terms of the approach, saying that our economic growth will be negative. But I am sure by inducting such a large amount of stimulus, we will end up with a 3 to 4% growth, which is reasonable compared to the situation what we are in today. So governments at both center and state, they will do the needful. So thank you for your time. Now I'll be very happy to take the questions from you. I believe you can raise your hand and they will unmute you and you can raise the question.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much for sharing this valuable information and your time. I will unmute the participants one by one to ask you questions. Sir, can I go ahead?
Yes, Bhumi, please go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Ashish Jain, can we have your question, please?
Hello, sir.
Yes, so we can hear you. Go ahead with your question.
Sir, it's been a nice session by you. My question is, do you think that in the backdrop of this COVID-19 and led economic slowdown, is India still has a chance to be a manufacturing and FDI hub, considering that majority of raw materials still come from China? So how can we have a chance to have a place in this world economy? I cannot hear you, sir.
Yeah, we cannot hear him. Sir, kindly unmute yourself. Dr. Kannan, please unmute yourself.
Dr. Kannan, we would request you to please unmute yourself. Sir, you are unmuted now.
Yeah. Okay. See, we drew up a plan. Our manufacturing share in the GDP is only 16.7%. Many years ago, we set a target that we have to move from 16 to 25% of GDP.
25%. Yes.
So we identified 25 sectors. We drew up an action plan for all the 25 sectors. But somehow we didn't do that. And in this budget also, they said that we will identify some of the industries which are part of global value chain. And if we start focusing on these global value chain industries, they can create employment as well as they can increase our manufacturing. To your question, what is our scope for increasing this to 25%? Emerging as a manufacturing nation, especially after this crisis, there are a lot of geopolitical reasons by which many countries around the world, they are looking at shifting part of their production from China to other countries. China will continue to have the higher market share, where they were really to get into the bandwagon. And compared to their steel production of 900 million tons a year, we are the second largest steel producer in the world with 110 million tons, but still we are 1/9 the capacity of China. But if you ask me whether we will be able to become a manufacturing power, yes, certainly. So for that, what is required is that there has to be a lot of strategic partnerships with countries like including China, US, Germany and Europe. So we have to bring the best technologies from there and tell them that use India as a manufacturing hub and serve the global market. So I think the government is also thinking on the same lines. I was reading yesterday, day before yesterday, the speeches by Commerce Minister, by Prime Minister yesterday. So they are very, very serious now. We have the potential, but as I said, there are a lot of conditions which are required to make it happen. We require the entire ecosystem. We are globally competitive in 10 sectors today, like apparel, but now we are behind Bangladesh and Vietnam in terms of exports. Automobile, anyone wants to start a small car manufacturing in the world, India is the best. Leather, chemicals, R&D, diamond processing. So at least 10 sectors in the world, IT, yes. 10 sectors in the world, we are really competitive. And whatever is required for the ecosystem to develop the manufacturing, we have it in India. It is only how we are going to structure the supply chains, how we are going to structure the regulation, how we are going to structure the industry, that will determine whether we can do it or not. But if you ask me, we can do it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Chandrasekhar, please go ahead with your question.
Hello. Yeah. First of all, I would like to thank you, sir, for a very informative and a useful session. My question is that in your presentation, you said that the government should encourage the consumption through government employees by encouraging them for by giving additional LTC and something like that. My question is that the government, in fact, recently has announced freezing of the DNS allowance.
Yeah.
And the same thing might be followed definitely by most of the other state governments. So don't you think that this will have a contrary effect and in fact reduce the consumption in future? So is this the right step?
Yeah. See, I think if you look at what is happening to other sectors in the economy, one good thing about government is that security of the job.
Yeah.
So whereas if we come to all other sectors, security of the job at all levels are at stake. And you must have read in the papers that people are taking salary cuts from 30% to 100%. Yeah, you must have read in the papers that some of the CEOs of the companies, they have taken 100% salary cut. So whenever you talk about a crisis situation like this, yeah, every citizen in the country has to contribute. You will find at least 70% of the working population, not 70 more. The working population is about 42 crore people in all sectors of the economy. If you come to government and government related sectors, there's only 3 crore, maybe including all faculty, everything. If you look at maybe 4.5 crores, not more than that. It's only 10% of the population. So maybe by doing this, I believe I heard government will be saving money. They're also planning to save money through defense. So they'll not buy some equipments now. So they'll divert the money. As I told you, government has its own limitations. As you are aware, after that 7th pay commission, now most of the government employees draw more salary than the employees in the private sector. Starting salaries in government is much higher than private sector. So I don't know. So the one good thing is government has not reduced the salary, but I don't know. And one good thing about again government is that whatever DA, TA and all that, they always used to give 2-3 years arrears also together. So I'm hopeful when the situation improves that they will give back everything.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Ganesh, please go ahead with your question.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Sir, you given a very nice and comprehensive economic overview. Sir, my question is, you mentioned that various sectors will affected due to COVID-19, like travel, tourism, automobile, manufacturing, airlines, etc. But you have not included the agriculture sector in it. Sir, can you share your insights on agriculture sector, as I am saying that many farmers have their yields, but they are not getting proper market due to lockdown. And how GDP will affect by agri sector?
In fact, the projections for GDP for agriculture is positive. One more thing you would be knowing, yesterday night, I don't know where it has come in the newspapers. Yesterday night, I think government announced the 200 more enam that the markets will be open, where the farmers can come directly and market. And similarly, in many states, they opened some centers where farmers can bring their produce and sell. And they are also releasing some pending arrears, or they are releasing some amount to the farmers. So government is really focusing on agriculture now. That is one sector where, as you are all aware, again, all these, even before the crisis, the government had a scheme whereby they are paying 2,000 rupees every 4 months, I think, 4 months. So 6,000 rupees per annum. Apart from central government, many of state governments also announced, saying that we will also pay a farmer. So farmer, really, they are getting money. Apart from that, now there is a lot of government support is there for the farmer to take their produce to. We are all finding it difficult to get vegetables. Prices have gone up 3-4 times. So now we are finding that there are in a week 2 or 3 mandis, 2 centers where farmers bring. I was reading somewhere that Nasik farmers, they all have come together. They have created some society. They are going to places and selling directly. So they are getting more money than what they used to. So if you ask me, one sector which will not be affected too much from this, because we have to consume all these food products. We continue to consume. Only vegetables and fruits are not available. But now they said agriculture is totally open, and anyone involved in agriculture can work. So that is not covered under lockdown. So that is one sector which is very safe now. And of course, there is a demand for products now, so we are back. And plus, they started exports also. You know, India is one of the largest exporters of agri products. So we started the export sector also. In case it's not consumed within India, it can be exported.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Dr.
Okay. Thank you,
Sulakshana?
sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Sulakshana, can you go ahead with your question, please?
Yes, yes. Hello. Hello, sir.
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
I'm
Hello.
not able to hear.
Hello.
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 I'm not able
I'm
to hear
Dr.
Dr. Lakshman.
Hello. I'm Dr. Sulakshana Chavan from VP Institute,
Hello.
Sangli.
One second. Dr. Sulakshana, 1 second.
Okay.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'll ask Dr. Sulakshana to speak again. See if you can hear her, sir.
Yeah.
Dr. Sulakshana, please go ahead.
Okay. Hello, sir. I'm Dr. Sulakshana Chavan from
I
Sangli.
can't hear him.
Sir, I will pass on her question to you. Is it okay?
Yes.
Okay,
Hello,
Dr.
madam.
Sulakshana? Yes.
I just want to ask the question regarding
Madam,
the
please go ahead, madam.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am,
Hello.
please continue. Please continue.
I just want to ask the questions regarding the unavailability of the workforce. As we know that already it's estimated that more than 10 crore jobs have been lost
Hello.
in the lockdown,
I can't
and
hear.
our unemployment percentage was
Sir,
well.
Yeah.
Sir, I will pass on the question to you.
Yeah.
She's
Please
asking
repeat the question.
about
Yeah.
she's asking about unavailability of workforce.
Yeah. That is going to be a big crisis now. When you're talking about slowly removing the lockdown, all this time the workers were in their own location. In fact, today morning, government of Karnataka, the Chief Minister of Karnataka, they requested all the migrant workers to stay within Karnataka, and he has promised them that whatever is required, they will do it. So when you're talking about reviving the manufacturing, in the last 2 days we have started having trains going to their locations. So when industries want to start, there will be issue of shortage of labor. So how we are going to manage this? One thing I didn't talk about was this NREGA scheme, the rural employment scheme. In fact, last month and year, 1 month before, the number of people employed in the scheme has come down. And this scheme covers more than 5 crore people, 5 crore families, where the government gives 100 days of work with the 202 rupees per day of work. So now there is a proposal or there is a suggestion to government, since most of the migrant labor have gone back to their place, the government may have to increase the number of people who will be employed under NREGA, but the problem for manufacturing industries which are in urban centers, semi-urban centers will be there. So we have to see how to attract them back to work. There will be an issue.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your response, sir.
Yeah.
Zulekha ma'am, how many questions more can we take?
Another 2 should be okay.
Maybe
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Madam,
Okay, thank you.
you can ask the question, I'll answer. Let them pass it on to you.
Sure, sure. Dr. Poonam Singh, please go ahead with your question. Dr. Poonam Singh.
I can't hear.
I'll go to the next person, sir.
Yeah.
Dr. Ram Tiwari, please go ahead with your question. Dr. Ram Tiwari. Dr. Poonam Singh, Dr. Ram Tiwari.
हाँ मैडम नमस्कार, मेरी आवाज आ रही है? हाँ मेरी आवाज आ रही है मैडम?
Yes sir.
हेलो, मैडम नमस्कार, मैं डॉक्टर राम, नमस्कार सर, मैं डॉक्टर राम तिवारी कानपुर से, उत्तर प्रदेश से। मेरा एक क्वेश्चन है सर कि हेलो सर, आई एम ऑडिबल? मेरी आवाज आ रही है सर?
Yes sir, please continue.
अभी अंतरराष्ट्रीय मुद्रा कोष ने कहा है सर, अभी अंतरराष्ट्रीय
I will repeat the question.
अंतरराष्ट्रीय मुद्रा कोष ने अभी 15 अप्रैल को जारी रिपोर्ट में कहा है कि दुनिया में 1930 जैसे वैश्विक मंदी के हालात बन गए हैं, लेकिन अभी एशियाई विकास बैंक एडीबी ने कहा कि 2020 और 21 में भारत की विकास दर घटने की बात कही, लेकिन इसी वित्तीय संस्थान ने कहा है कि भारत के पास एक ऐसी मजबूत आर्थिक ताकत है जिसके बल पे वो 21 और 22 में अपनी अर्थव्यवस्था में सुधार कर लेगा। तो मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है सर कि ये
डॉक्टर राम तिवारी, कैन यू जस्ट समराइज योर क्वेश्चन प्लीज?
मेरा समराइज क्वेश्चन ये है मैडम कि अभी जो एशियाई विकास बैंक ने कहा है अपनी रिपोर्ट में कि 21-22 में भारत अपनी अर्थव्यवस्था में सुधार कर लेगा, तो मेरा ये पूछना है कि इतनी खराब अर्थव्यवस्था में एडीबी की रिपोर्ट किस तरीके से सार्थक होगी?
Sure, thank you. I will pass on your question to Mr. Kannan. Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So, Mr. Ram Tiwari is saying ADB has said that in 2021-22, India will improve its economy. He is asking how is it possible in such extreme situation that the economy will flourish?
Like I told you, if the required stimulus is given, yeah, this year itself we will have a positive growth. So now everybody is predicting a negative growth. 2021. In fact, the forecast for all the economies in the world, if you look at the IMF forecast, whichever will have a big fall, this year will have a big growth next year. Where we have to, where every industry would have revived, and all people would have started working. Income would have come back. People would start spending. They'll start consuming. So the economy will pick up. So same way, the next year, everything will be in a full operation. That is how it will be.
Sure, sir. I'm sure he has heard your answer. Thank you so much.
Yeah, next
Participants, yes, this is the last question for the day. Mr. Eknath, can you please go ahead with your question?
Yes, madam. So, madam, I have a question that क्या इंडिया सही में ready है to face the challenges of economics, because we have health policy which for which India is never ready. We don't have good hospitals, doctors. Then a small sector affected people like small vendors,
Madam, you can read out the
laborers. Then our teaching fraternity. So whether India is really ready for this or not?
Sure. Thank you, sir. I'll pass on your question to Mr. Kannan.
Yes.
Sir, his question is India really ready to face the economic crisis? Because we are not doing that great as far as health sector is concerned, and even the teaching fraternity sector. Also, the small scale sector is being affected tremendously. So is India really ready to face the economic crisis, is what his question is.
As I told you, one good thing about India is that, America spends 18% of its GDP on health. India spends only 5.5%. The main reason is that the medicines are very, very cheap here. Yeah, it's almost 1/10 or maybe even 1/50th of the price. And plus in India, we have different types of medicine. As you are all aware, Ministry of Ayush has identified 6 alternative types of medicine. In fact, most of the people got cured only within the home, using turmeric and other things. Yeah, they were able to cure themselves. We hear about the same thing in China also. Many of the people who are affected, they cure themselves. So, if you talk about public health, yes, we have to improve, because most of the expenditure is happening in public sector only, and private sector is yet to develop in a big way. We have less number of doctors coming out. We have less number of nurses. We have less number of medical colleges for the type of population we have. If you ask me, they have to be double. That's one. That is true. But with all these resources, we are able to manage this very well. And as far as whether India will be able to come out strong, one good thing is that India is a very, very strong economy. And we Indians, by nature, we are all good savers. Yeah, only gig economy people say that they go spend the money and all that. But the people like us, we are all focused on savings. We have saved at least 20-30% of whatever we are earning. We have kept our savings. Such savings is always available. Even if you go to villages, they have a lot of cash as savings apart from the bank savings. Savings is there in the economy. Only thing, after demonetization, all these savings they could not be productively utilized in the economy. You remember, in the informal economy also plays a major role in the GDP growth. So most of the sectors which are not giving you economically viable returns, the money for these sectors, coming from this informal sector, whether it is real estate or building a mall, they give you only 2-3% return. Who will invest? Only those who have the money will invest. So all that money, if they are utilized, I am sure, plus, like I told you, a big stimulus. It will be bad for the short term, for 1 year, but it is good for 3 years. the government comes up with a big stimulus, I'm sure India will come back. And again, all the predictions, what do they say? India will grow faster than China. But I don't agree with that. So China already started its activities last month.
Correct.
So this year, China's growth will be higher than India. But we can be ahead of them next year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, participants. The other questions can be put up on the WhatsApp group, which can then be forwarded to sir. May I request Mr. Deepak Bhosle to please present the vote of thanks?
Yeah, sure. Jai Hind, respected dignitaries and dear participants. It is my pleasure and honor to propose a vote of thanks for today's second session delivered by Dr. R. Kannan on the topic of economics implication on COVID-19 from Indian perspective. Sir, it was indeed a flawless lecture and quite effective one. The suggestions given by Dr. R. Kannan are really worth and applicable in the present situation. So, Honorable Dr. Kannan, sir, we all participants, the team of Sydenham Faculty Development Center, Mumbai, and Cyber College and Autonomous Institute, Kolhapur, express our gratitude towards you for sparing your valuable time and thoughts with us. At the end, I am also grateful and thankful to one and all. Thank you.
Thank you for all the faculty members who are behind this. Plus, thanks for all the faculty members who participated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bhosle. Thank you so much, Mr. Kannan, for sharing your views and your time with us. Participants, we end today's session with this. We would request you to please ensure to fill up the feedback form for both the sessions. Feedback form for both the sessions separately. The link will be available till midnight, 12 o'clock. Tomorrow, we meet again at 11 o'clock for the second day. Meeting link will be sent at 10:30 a.m. on the WhatsApp groups. Today, in spite of repeated reminders, there were 11 people who were in the waiting room for quite some time because they did not have the serial number. Being the first day they were allowed in, kindly ensure to put the serial number and register before entering. It is a request from our end, please mention your serial number. Thank you. Have a nice day. Signing off, FDP team.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you.